Hello and welcome back to the chaos that is Shani and Books. This is hopefully going to be a less chaotic video because I've written out some notes to keep me on track. I've tried to organize my thoughts because I'm going to be speaking about a situation that has unfolded in the last 24 or so hours involving a booktuber named Hailey Hughes and the author Matt Shaw. I'm a little bit nervous to make this style of video because I don't want people to come and attack me, but I do think that it is important for people to speak and use whatever voice we may have in controversial situations like this so that things like this don't happen again and we have learned from it. But I'll get into that in a moment. So that's why I'm making this video. I did actually plan to make a very similar video earlier in the year. There was a similar situation, but much less extreme. And I was planning to make a video then, but I thought that I wasn't going to be eloquent enough and well-spoken enough to speak on it at the time. However, now I do think it's important to publicly show support, especially in a case where someone's safety is potentially at risk. We all follow different people, so we have different things coming up on our feeds. So I think that the more people that share it and discuss it, the more eyes we are reaching. And while I personally don't have the biggest following, I do have over 1,000 subscribers here, which is a lot for me. So hopefully you take some time to listen to me speak about this topic. So I will get into explaining the current situation in detail. But first I would like to share some of the thoughts that I had earlier this year and give you my personal backstory so you know where I'm coming from. Because like I said, I was already planning to do something similar. So if you've followed my content for a while, you would have seen me speak about the fact that I am not confident in reviewing books. I think because I follow a lot of creators who are so intelligent and well-spoken that I felt that I would not be able to review books in the same way that they are. I do feel a bit scatterbrained sometimes when I'm speaking and I struggle to express my thoughts. So because of this, I have gone through periods where I don't update my Goodreads and I don't put my reviews in there. I've actually only just gone back and added all of my reviews for this year because I'm being brave and actually doing it, because previously I had them like written on paper in a journal that only I was viewing, and I'd been doing my monthly wrap-ups like in a get ready with me style video where I'm doing my makeup, which I stopped doing that as well because I was a bit nervous. But I said in those videos I was just more confident when I was doing something with my hands because I felt like people weren't paying as much attention to my words about the books and they had something else to watch. I don't know, it just felt easier to me. So that is my stance on how I feel about personally reviewing books. I'm not confident in my abilities. I obviously enjoy reading and consuming and creating content revolving books. So let me talk about this first situation early in the year. An Australian bookstagrammer whose username is booksthroughmyveins_. Her name is Camilla. She posted a book review of a book she had received called The Manuscript by the author Lucy Bloom. The review included both positive and negative comments. It was very well written in my opinion, and the critiques were well worded. Nothing was rude or harsh that I thought. If you would like to go and see, I'm going to leave links to everything. She's saved all of this in a highlight on her page so you can see like from the original source. But essentially what had happened is that despite not being tagged in the review, the author found it. I'm assuming she was searching up her book on Instagram, and she commented on it. She said that the review was inaccurate and that the reviewer did not understand the book, in her opinion. The bookstagrammer very politely wrote back, and this continued in her comments for a bit. So I'm going to start putting things on the screen so you can kind of pause if you want to read. I'm not going to read out every single message because it will take forever. So the author then went and found her review on Goodreads and left a comment. Again, you can pause to read. The author then messaged this bookstagrammer in her DMs, and eventually the PR agency, not the publisher, ended up contacting the reviewer to say that they support her. They cannot always control the way their authors respond. This was the PR agency, not the publisher. The author had founded the publishing company herself, so she cannot be held accountable from just some of the comments that this author had left. Not even replying to anything, just on the Goodreads review that her book is selling its tits off. Second print run already sold out. Don't know what to tell you. Just don't bother buying it. You're not the reader sheep. Sweet cheeks, kisses. After the author had continued to comment on Camilla's Goodreads account, she was also speaking about her on multiple social media platforms, getting more and more rude as the time went on. So this continued on separate platforms now, and now is swearing at people who are sharing about it, telling someone else to suck a fat one, and then allegedly, but I think it's pretty obvious, created a fake account to start leaving comments on the Bookstagrammers account, bullying them, both publicly and in private DMs. Again, this is allegedly. We don't know that this is the author, but someone who is acting on the author's behalf, because there are comments saying she's a queen, that Camilla sucks, you should quit, creating nothing of value. Like it's just bullying comment, and then in DMs as well. The author then wrote this article about how she experienced cancel culture. It was later taken down by Women's Agenda, and they contact the reviewer to hear from her. But if you want to pause at any point to read some of this, this is what she wrote. Again, this is going to be on Camilla's Instagram highlights if you want to go and see it. So next, and this is important to think about with the current situation that I'll talk about in a second, but another Australian author, Sally Hepworth, who is very well known and has some very successful books, ended up calling out Lucy Bloom on her Facebook account. And this is another reason why it's important for us to all support people who are in this position. A bigger author putting her in her place probably did help the situation in general. Lucy did tell Sally that she had apologized to Camilla, the reviewer, but she didn't. There were screenshots of that. So Sally had said, I'm assuming you tagged me because of my discontinued 1-star review series. So I want to make my stance clear. I do not believe an author should comment on or challenge their reviews, not because of fear of being cancelled, but because the reviewer has taken time and effort to put it together, and it is their prerogative to say how they felt about the book. If reviewers all gave positive reviews in exchange for a free book, reviews would be meaningless and therefore useless to readers and writers alike. My 1-star review series was designed to entertain, laugh, and poke fun at myself rather than the reviewer. Even so, I stopped doing it because I worried it might be disrespectful to those who'd taken the time to review my book. It's unfortunate the way this has blown up. There is a steep learning curve when it comes to publishing, but think of this as an opportunity to learn, improve, and move forward. Best, Sally. Again, I want to point out how important to the story it is that a larger author, a very successful author in the same space, has stood up and shown her stance on this. Lucy then goes on to say that this was happening on Lucy's Facebook account. Sally Hepworth encourages her to apologize to Camilla, the bookstagrammer, in order to put this behind them. She says she has, but this is the apology that she is referencing. So you can read that if you want. And again, if you want to pause to read this, but this is the end piece of Camilla's review. It calls it entertaining, fast-paced, a perfect fit for readers. You know, she references who she would recommend it to. And again, Lucy commenting, so I bring up this whole saga. This is what I was originally going to make a video on at the beginning of the year, but changed my mind. But it really solidified my fear of posting my reviews online. The reviewer that I just spoke about, Camilla, she handled it really well. She stood up for herself. And I know myself, I do not have thick skin. I'm an emotional little bean. I know that if I was the target of this harassment by an author, I would 100% have crumbled immediately and probably never read a book again for the rest of my life. Now, before I move on to the current situation, which is similar but much worse than the one I just spoke about, I would like to stop and say that, to echo what Sally had commented, book reviews are for readers, not authors. I understand that it must be hard to put sometimes years of work into a book and then publish it and have it maybe not as well received as you would have hoped. But once the book is out, the reviews are there so that readers can decide if they want to pick it up or not. In my opinion, a negative review is not necessarily bad for the book. I have people who I follow whose book tastes align really well with mine, and I know if they give a book a raving review, I will want to pick it up straight away. But I also have people who I follow who I like their content, but our reading tastes are not similar at all. So sometimes if they dislike a book, I will enjoy it. For example, a romance reader may review a book and say that they didn't enjoy it and maybe critique it for its lack of spicy scenes. However, I hear that and I'm more likely to pick it up. An example of recently, my friend Sadie, her Instagram is The Library Lane. She had picked up Legends and Lattes and started reading it, but posted on her story that she was going to put it down because it was too boring for her. She reads a lot more fantasy than I, and so is used to a lot more action happening in fantasy. And I had replied to that story and messaged her immediately and said, I think if you think it's boring, then I'm going to love it. And I did. Okay. So let's move on to what is currently happening with Hailey, Hughes and Matt Shaw. I'm filming this in the morning of the 22nd in Australian time, so it'll be the day before for everyone else. So more may come out on this later, but I'm going to give you a rundown of the timeline of events as I know them right now. And I want to say I'm not trying to spread hate to anyone, about anyone. I'm just reporting on what's happening. So Matt Shaw is an extreme horror author. Hailey Hughes is a booktuber who enjoys reading extreme horror among other genres. I personally would like to start by saying that I do not read extreme horror. So this is not something that would have come up my feed if it had not blown up like this. So I want to say I have not read the books that I will be referencing. So take that information. And I also don't want to speak too much on the extreme horror community because I'm not personally in it. But here is the timeline as I know it. But I do recommend going to Hailey's Instagram and TikTok in order to hear it in her words. So in 2022, Hailey read a book by Matt Shaw called A Roll of the Dice, and she featured this book in her Worst Books of 2022 video. This video was posted on December 25, 2022. And side note, I know some people don't like these worst of videos, but as I discussed, books that were not good for one reviewer may be good for another reader, and it might entice them to pick it up. And I've already gave examples of that, so I'm not going to talk about it again. Okay, on the 27th of February 2023, Matt Shaw publishes the book titled Moist Gusset. This information I'm getting from Goodreads for the publishing dates, but this is 64 days after Hailey posted her video with the book featured in it, with Matt's book featured in it. And Matt Shaw has dedicated this book, Moist Gusset, to Hailey, and we'll get into that. But from what I've gathered of this situation, Hailey was unaware of this dedication until just now, but the book was published in February, so we can remember that. On the 19th of August 2023, so 2 days ago, or 3 depending on which time zone you're in, Hailey posts a YouTube discussion video in collaboration with Aspen's Archive. They discuss the extreme horror genre. These women are both readers of the genre, and there are 2 discussion videos, one on Hailey's channel and one on Aspen's channel. And they did make some great points, so I recommend watching if you're interested. Again, I'm not going to comment on that in particular because I don't have a background in being a part of that community. So after this discussion video was posted, it, I guess, ruffled some feathers in the extreme horror community. And then that is where this all blows up because Matt is then seen commenting that he dedicated his book to Hailey. So I guess that is how she was able to find this. I assume someone sent it to her. She finds out about this and leaves a review on Goodreads for said book. So this is the comment. I've inserted it on the screen. I dedicated a book to her, and then 2 angel emojis. So understandably, she's not going to pay money to someone who clearly dislikes her in order to obtain a copy of the book in which it's dedicated to her, in order to find out what was said about her. So in order to notify people who follow her reviews, she leaves a Goodreads review clearly stating what has happened. The author then replies to her on Goodreads and they have a back and forth discussion. These messages have now been removed from the Goodreads page, or I just can't see them. There would be screenshots somewhere. I'm not going to insert those because you can read them if you'd like. I'll leave links to people who have posted the screenshots because it's getting kind of long here. And for anyone who is curious, this is the dedication. It's cut off a little bit, but it says, "For Hailey, you hate it when men write through the eyes of a woman so much, and yet you inspired me to write this book, which I am sure you will never read." And that is fine. That being said, I'm surprised how much time you spend moaning about male authors, misrepresenting people and groups, when you could spend more time enjoying the things which do not upset your delicate sensitivities. Art can be enjoyed by anyone. Art can be created by anyone. Only Nazis dictate otherwise. You trout. P.S. Yes, I spelled your name wrong on purpose. Again, this was posted before she made this discussion video. Her comment says March 2023, but on Goodreads, I can see that it was posted in February. So I'm not sure whether it was February or March. And if you are like me and you are unfamiliar with current slang, this is the definition of a trout, which is what he referred Hailey to being. So there's that, which you would think that would be bad enough, but we continue on and it gets worse. Okay, I thought I was recording for a second, but I wasn't. Moving on, here's where things get worse. Here is a clip from Hailey's TikTok showing something Matt has written on his Facebook page. He refers to Hailey as Amber, which in the TikTok she assumes is he's done it so that she's unable to accuse him of bullying, defaming, etc. But the real reason is not very good. So it turns out Matt Shaw is a big Johnny Depp fan, which nothing wrong with that. We can be fans of whoever we like. But the issue is with his obsession with Amber Heard. A TikTok video posted by Rachel with reads, again I will link, goes into detail about this. Essentially, he wrote an extreme horror book called Her Name Was Amber, which, judging by the synopsis, is just a book about the Johnny Amber situation, but where brutal things happen to Amber. This is concerning for obvious reasons, but especially since he's writing graphically horrific things about a real person. This isn't like The Love Hypothesis where it's fanfic about a fictional character. It's a story written about a real person. He didn't even change the person's name in the book, it's in the title, and horrific things are happening to this person. No matter what your stance is regarding the Johnny Amber case, I personally had to take a break from the internet when that case was happening because it was everywhere and it was affecting my mental health based on my life. But I would think that most humans would never write torture porn about whichever person they didn't agree with in that case. Again, regardless of which side you're on, if you're on any side at all. This in the same TikTok is another comment where Matt has said something in reference to Hailey, that she had an Amber Heard moment. Circling back to that original screenshot, this is the same one, but you can just see the full thing where Hailey said she's not sure why she's referred to as Amber. This is why. It's not just a random name he's picked out to use in replacement of her name. It's concerning. I'll leave linked again, like I've said, the TikToks that I am referencing, but Rachel then goes on to read out another comment from Matt, which he basically says that women are silly for being scared of men. This has come because Hailey had said that she was fearing this man, rightfully so. So in response to that, he says that he thinks there's enough hatred and wrong in the world to feel unsafe from every man. Now, I don't even know where to start with this comment. Not a lot gets me super worked up. I just think you have to have a really tiny amount of empathy within yourself to have this opinion about women. Women aren't pulling this fear out of thin air. We're basing this fear on our lived experiences. When you experience and witness things enough, you know to be careful. Obviously, not every single man is bad, obviously, but women do not have a way to be able to definitively tell this. There's no magical scanner where we can scan a man and be like, oh no, he's a good one, I can let my guard down now. We can't tell. Bad men hide well. So because of this, it is safer to be cautious of all men because we can't tell which ones are the good ones and which ones aren't. So if you can't understand this, then I don't know a different way to explain it to your very few brain cells. Women are acting upon our past experiences. I don't think we should be shaming Hailey for expressing that she is fearful of someone. Women are fearful quite often for good reason. Before I keep moving on, I do want to commend Hailey for how she has acted, how strong she's been in the last day or so. As I discussed earlier, I'm a very sensitive person and I would absolutely not have survived this situation if I were in her shoes. This is part of why I'm making this video and why I encourage everyone to stick up for her and show her support. If we stay silent and allow this to blow over, these authors, these men, these people who think like this, because reviewers are supporting. So these people in general will see this as evidence that it is okay and that they can get away with acting this way. It's not okay. Authors commenting on reviews and then harassing reviewers on their social media platforms or anywhere is bad enough, but to write and dedicate a book that you wrote in 64 days about a reviewer because they reviewed your book one time, especially if the genre that you write in is extreme horror, very graphic violence, and from what I've seen from reviewers is referred to as torture porn. It's not okay. We need to show support so that the book community knows this is not acceptable. Not just reviewers. Other authors need to speak up. That's why I spoke about that other situation before. A bigger author speaking up, I think, helped. People with larger platforms need to speak up. Booksellers need to speak up. Anyone should be voicing this and boosting other voices on this. Although I want to make it clear, I would obviously never advise anyone to send hate or death threats to any person, regardless of which side you fall on. Things can be said in a respectful way, which I hope I'm doing. Lastly, there was a point that Hailey made in her discussion video about extreme horror that shocked me. I'll insert the clip now.
This was so disturbing to me. Last year was the first time that I came across that type of content in an extreme horror book, and it's when I was reading Womb by Duncan Ralston, and I think my review is like pretty infamous at this point. It's been passed around the little Facebook groups, and they've all been having their little opinions on me. Here's the thing. I gave the book 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's a bad book. I think the horror is really effective, and I didn't have an issue with the plot. I had an issue that a white author is using the N-word, and I spoke about that. Granted, I did it in a rant review format, which debatably was not the most eloquent way to say it, but I am a young woman and I'm very impassioned, and I don't have to apologize for that. So I had mentioned that in my review, and I was just attacked. Like, when I'm telling you, like, pictures of my face were screenshotted from my social media, my personal social media, and edited, so I looked like I was mutilated and defecated upon. Like, that is not an appropriate reaction to any reviewer, no matter what rating they give you, but definitely not a 3.5 out of 5 star. Like, that was just absolutely insane to me.
Let me repeat that for you. She gave a 3.5 star review of a book. Her photos were then screenshot and edited so it looked like she was mutilated and defecated on. I have no words for how terrible that is. I don't even know what to say. Now let's look at the Goodreads suggested rating system. This is just a side tangent to add on to this point. Here's a book that I've read that I haven't given a star review for yet. This is Goodreads suggested rating system. So if I hover over 5 stars, Goodreads says it was amazing. If I hover over 4, it says really liked it. 3 stars is liked it. 2 stars is it was okay. And 1 star is did not like it. So we should not be bullying people for leaving 3-star reviews. 3 is still good. And by that suggested rating system, I should be giving a lot more books 1 star. My purpose in this video is to present this timeline of events to possibly new eyes who have not seen it on social media yet. I believe that I've included all relevant information up to this point. I would like to note that Matt Shaw has deleted all of his TikToks in response to Hailey, so we can no longer view those. And I want to reiterate, I'm in no way suggesting that this author or any author who has done anything similar should be harassed, bullied, sent hate, sent death threats, or anything. Like, that should not happen. I'm in no way trying to defame this author or any other author. I'm simply providing the screenshots as I see them. So I hope I don't receive any hate or backlash for this video. As I've stated, I'm a sensitive being, and this is not the genre I generally read. So I have not read the books that I'm referencing. And this is not something that would have come up on my feed had it not blown up so much. I'm not trying to say this author is a bad person. I do not know them personally. I have not read their work, so I'm unable to comment on that. I'm purely reporting on the events that have unfolded in the last day in order to point out that the whole thing shouldn't be happening. Moving forward, I hope we can all read what makes us happy. We can all write what makes us happy. In doing so, not harm anyone. It should be a safe place for all parties involved. Please let me know in the comments, kindly, what your take on this situation is and what your suggestion would be moving forward. I personally think an apology could be issued and we can move on from this using this situation as an example of what is not appropriate within the bookish online spaces. Again, I will be linking everything, if I can, that I have referenced throughout this in the description if you would like to go there and view the original sources. Please be kind to everyone, stay safe, and read what makes you happy. And yeah, thank you for listening.